Let's go to Exodus 3. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, and the priest of Midian, and led the flock to the backside of the desert, and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush, and he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burned. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, I want you to see how God responds to the curiosity of Moses. God is a miracle working God. God is busy doing something in your midst. Every single day, if you start to notice God is doing something, God responds to your curiosity. We must start looking out. What is God doing for me today? Because when we start looking at the things that God is doing, God responds. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Draw not nigh, then put off your shoes from your feet, for the place wherein you stand is holy. Moreover, he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Just imagine the presence that Moses must have felt in that instance. When Simon, where are you? When he was singing that song, Your Train Fills the Temple. I just felt the heaviness of God's presence, just like God is so much bigger than what we can ever imagine. He is far greater than what we have ever seen. My goodness. So just imagine God saying to Moses, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry by reason for their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them out of the land unto God's plan for his people is to bring them out of the land that they are oppressed in into a good land. Everybody knows what the definition of good is? Yes, it is completely the opposite of bad. God wants to bring them into a good land, and unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Sadducites and the Jebusites. So they all, okay, that one went quick over your head. This land had already occupants in it. The Amalekites, the Jezreelites, all these guys, the Perizzites, all of them were already in the land that God has prepared. See, God said, I want to bring them into a land that I've created for them, but the land had to be managed so that the land is fruitful. So I have placed these people already there to make sure when my people come to the land, there's crops already waiting for them. Okay, come on. We say the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. We say everything works out for good for them that loves God. But do you know that God needs to use people in order to create the things that we are in need of? Let's jump down to Exodus 33. The journey from Egypt to the promised land was supposed to be 4 days. 4 days of walking. They went through the desert 40 years because they did not believe God. And in those 40 years, God over and over provides for them. Over and over, He comes through for them. Over and over, He shows forth His goodness to them. But they are a stiff-necked people and they don't want to believe God. Now let's pick up in Exodus 33. The Lord said unto Moses, Depart and go up hence, you and the people, when you have brought up out of the land of Egypt, unto the land which I swore unto Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, saying, Unto your seed I will give it. And I will send an angel before you, and I will drive out the Canaanites, the Amorites, and the Hittites, unto the land flowing with milk and honey. For I will not go up in the midst of thee, for you are a stiff-necked people, lest I consume you in the way. And when the people heard these evil tidings, they mourned, and no man put on his ornaments. For the Lord said unto Moses, Say unto the children of Israel, You are a stiff-necked people. I will come into the midst of thee in a moment and consume you. Therefore, now put off your ornaments from thee, that I may know what to do with you. So God says, all right, I've had enough with you. The land is still yours. I will send an angel in to drive them out so that you can occupy the land, but I will not be in your midst. Moses says to God, God, if you're not going, I do not want the promise that you have given to me. Because the promise without the promiser means nothing. You see, the promise, I love it. I'm just going to say it again. The promise is holy, but it's not the place of holiness, as the deer said. Don't replace the promise with God. Don't replace the thing that you're waiting for with God Himself. Don't be so stuck on receiving what God has promised that you forget God is with you. And when He's with you, you don't even need that. Because the promised land is not a geographical location. From the beginning, God says, I will bring you into a good land. A land flowing with milk and honey. What is that? My goodness. Numbers 13. The Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Send you men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto your children of Israel. You see, God is still busy with the same thing. Of every tribe of the fathers you shall send a man, every one a ruler of them. And Moses sent the commandment of the Lord, sent from the wilderness of Paran, and all those who were the heads of the children of Israel. So Moses sends out the 12 tribes. The 12 tribes that God said, send them out and go look at the land. And they returned from searching of the land after 40 days. And when they came to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel unto the wilderness of Paran, to Kadesh, to brought the word unto them and unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him and said, We came unto the land where you sent us, and surely it flows with milk and honey. And this is the fruit of it. Nevertheless, now I want to tell you, like that one cluster of grapes that two guys had to carry with a stick on their shoulders. I don't know how many of you have seen grapes that size. The land was fruitful. The people that was occupied was taking care of it. They were growing great crops. The land was ready for the taking. I want to tell you today, the land is ready for the taking. The promised land is ready for the taking. Don't go another 40 years in your life and miss the place that God has prepared for you. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled, are very great, and moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea, and by the coast of Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses, and said, Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. Wow, all right. So these guys were big guys. They were giants. I love it where they said here at the end, verse 33. It says, We saw that they were giants, the son of Anak, which came out of giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, as we were in their sight. Caleb and Joshua said, I don't care how big this guy is. He had to be big because, man, there's a lot of ground that needs to be worked. God is preparing something for me. There will be giants. There will be situations that seems impossible to you when you want to receive your promise. Man, we are busy with the series Better Things. We are in part 3. Last week was We Are Destined for More. Don't walk as mere humans because there's so much more. But we expect the Word of God to be full of trumpets when we come in and be celebrated. Finally, Eric, everything is yours. Come take it. God gives them the promise. He says, this is your land. But when they start looking at the land, they saw that there were giants there. It's like, we won't be able to overcome this. Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. Ha, my goodness. I want to tell you now that God will always give you a promise that is far greater than your earthly abilities. God will not give you something that you can achieve. If we go through the word over and over, just think about Jehoshaphat. He was facing an army that it's not possible to overcome. But God still takes everything that he thinks he needs to overcome this and brings it down to something so insignificant so that he cannot say, I did this. That's Gideon, man. The promise of God will always be greater than what you can achieve. Because otherwise it's your own doing. Thank you, Father. The promise needs an evaluation and a report. These spies went out. They brought up an evil report of the land, which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eats up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which came of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Let's go to chapter 14. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people went that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, and the whole congregation said unto them, would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God have that we had died in the wilderness? And wherefore has the Lord brought us unto the land, to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be prey? Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt? And they said unto one another, let us make a captain, and let us return into Egypt. Then Moses, Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly and the congregation of Israel. And Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, I hope I said that right, which were of them, searched the land, rent their clothes. And they spoke unto the company of the children of Israel, saying, the land which we passed through to search it, it is an exceeding good land. God's promise to them in Exodus 3 is, I'm going to bring them into a good land. God tells Moses, send out spies. Spies come back, they bring a report. 10 says, nah, this is a bad idea. We're going to get a beating here. 2 of the 12 says, man, this land is exceedingly good. It is exactly what God promised us. It says, if the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Talking about a report this morning. God wants a report. He tells Moses, send out spies, bring me a report back. God loves a report. You know, in Job, God is sitting and he calls all his sons together. He says, give me a report of what's happening. God loves a report. These guys brought an evil report. And if you continue reading 14, those 10 guys, those 10 spies, God says to them, guess what you're going to get for your report? You're going to get another 40 years, and in those 40 years, you're going to die in plagues and pestilences. And you will not step into what I've given to you because of the report that you have given to me. Let's go back to the beginning. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Doesn't matter what is facing you. Doesn't matter what is against you. Doesn't matter how big giant you are facing. Everything belongs to God. So if God has a plan for your life, he will make it happen. If the Lord delights in us, you need to come to the understanding that God delights in you, Stefan. God delights in you, Leon. Tino, God delights himself in you. Last week we found that we are his temple. I'm not going to live in a house that I don't like. If you go to my house today, you're going to see that I love the place that I stay. If I walk into my house, it's my habitation. I take joy in my house. Now, if you are God's temple, that means he takes joy in living in you. Okay. So then, if the Lord delights in us, okay, we've answered that question. It's not an if anymore. God delights in you. Then He will give it to you. Man, we're talking about a report. There's two guys that gives a different report. The 12 guys, they didn't see things differently. Some of them didn't have 3D glasses on, and the others didn't have glasses on. I'm just trying to paint a picture for you. If we all stand here and we look at this pulpit, we see this pulpit for what it is, because we are all present at the same time. Now, all of the spies were present at the same time, standing next to each other, seeing the same things. But two of them saw different, because they gave a different report. If you read further, it says Joshua and Caleb was of a different spirit. The spirit that you carry depends on the report that you give to God. So this is what I'm saying. The promise needs an evaluation and a report. And the report is an important part of receiving what was promised. Because we do not look at the seen, but we look at the unseen. 10 spies saw the Amalekites, they saw the giants. 2 spies saw themselves standing there, enjoying the fruit of the land. Even though they see the giants there, it doesn't register, because they can picture themselves enjoying the land that God has promised to them. How many times do we stand right in front of our promises that God has given to us, but I don't have the finances. I don't have the ability. Look at Moses. I can't speak. They were of a different spirit. So the Amalekites in the natural seemed too big to conquer. But the unseen was that if God promised it, no matter how it looks in the natural, with God, you see, I can just give you a few blanks and you fill in the word yourself, because you know the word. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Man, come on, when last did you do some confessions? I am the head, I am not the tail. I am a victory that is busy happening. I am the material that God uses to work His signs, wonders, and miracles through. Hallelujah. We need to get into that place. We need to start understanding that God wants us to report back to Him. How many of you are holding on to promises? When last have you evaluated the promise and gave a report back? This is where I'm standing. This is the giants that's up there. It's like, yay. This is an exceeding good promise. I can have it. Let's go up at once. Let's do it. God is waiting for some people to stand up and pursue. Stand up and take what He has given to us. I think that's the confusion that we have, is that when we get to the promise, we see there are giants inhabiting our promise. And then we kind of back off. It's not. This one's not for me. I'm waiting for that promise that has no giants in. I think I said it in the conference. God is not a magician. He doesn't pull rabbits out of a hat. So if He says, I have a land that is good, that already has crops, that's flowing with milk and honey, I have a place for you that is already set up. It means that God had to put people there in order to create it. So your spirit determines the report that you will give back to God. I want you to think about this. Joshua and Caleb were of a different spirit. If we go back to Numbers 14, God even tells Moses, He says, only Caleb will enter into It's only a few verses later where God says Caleb and Joshua will enter into. And none of these people will enter into the promised land. Then we go to just two books further, Joshua. Now after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spoke unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore, arise, go over this Jordan, that you and this people unto the land which I have given to them, even to the children of Israel, every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that I have given unto you, as I said unto Moses, from the wilderness to the Lebanon, even unto the great river Euphrates, into the land of the Hittites, and unto the great sea towards going down the earth's sun shall be your coast. There shall not any man be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you, and I will not fail you, nor forsake you. Be strong and of good courage, for unto this people shall you divide an inheritance the land, which I swore unto your fathers to give them. Wow. The promise of God from the beginning still stands. The promise of God for your life still stands. The promise that God swore to Abraham is still valid in your life today. I believe this is where we need to change our perspective on things. You're going to see giants, yes. In the natural, you're going to see situations. And those situations sometimes, man, we are all human beings, right? But we are called for more. So in the natural, we do feel our batteries drained every now and then. Hallelujah. And what do we do then? He says, edify yourself, lift yourself up in the inner man by praying in tongues, by singing spiritual songs, by singing in hymns. Lift yourself up because you have the power to edify yourself when the things get rough. So that you can stand up and give a good report. Hallelujah. Oh. We are called to give a good report. And let's go to 2 Corinthians 4. Thank you, Jesus. 2 Corinthians 4. Are you there? We're going to do a lot of reading, so tonight you can just say, good night, Jesus. Go to bed. Therefore, seeing we have this ministry, as we received mercy, we faint not, but we have renounced the hidden things of dishonesty, not walking in craftiness, nor handling the word of God deceitfully, but by manifestation of the truth, commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, and in whom the God of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. For we preach not ourselves, but Christ Jesus, for the Lord, and ourselves the servants of Jesus. For God, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, has shone in our hearts, to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus. Wow. But we have, say, I have. What do you have? You have this treasure, the light of God that shines into your heart. And he says, their eyes were blinded so they do not see. You cannot see without light. This is what I want to tell you today, that God has given you this light so that you are able to see. See what? See the unseen. As we are looking in the natural, we can see the things that God has promised to us. If we look at the school and everything else looks like it's failing, I can see, but God's word over the school is that we will make it, that we will prosper, that we will be a light to this nation, that we will be a place where the systems of this world will come to. Way back in this church when everything was going wrong, it's like, all these things are there, but you can see. This is the light that we have received. For God, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus. But we have this treasure in earthen vessels. Come on. The promise is always greater than your abilities. But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us. My goodness. How beautiful is this? God is the one that gives the promise. He is the one that gives you the light to see it. And He is the one that will perform it. You see, the problem with those 10 spies is they thought they were going to have to go fight. And they say, we will not win. Yeah. Joshua and Caleb knew. God said, I'm going to send the angel before you, drive them out. So Joshua and Caleb is like, boys, where did you lose the plot? It's like, did you have breakfast this morning? Can I make you a burger or something? You just need to start thinking clearly. God has already given this to us. Yes. Why do I want to step in and try and perform what He said He's going to do? Because the excellency of the power will be of God and not of us. Ooh. We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed. Always bearing in the body of our dying of our Lord Jesus, that the life of Jesus might be manifest in our body. For we which live are always delivered unto death for Jesus' sake, that the life of Jesus might be made manifest in our mortal flesh. So then, death works in us, but life in you. We having the same spirit of faith, according as it is written, I believed, therefore I have spoken. We also believe. God sends the spies out and says, give me a report. Speak what you see. What do you see today? Do you see your shortcomings? Or do you see what God has promised you? Do you see the word that He has given you? Or do you see where you still miss it? I believed, and therefore I have spoken. We also believe, and therefore speak, knowing that He which raised up the Lord Jesus shall also raise Jesus up and shall present us with you. For all things are for your sakes, that the abundance of grace might through thanksgiving of many rebound to the glory of God. Woo! For we which cause we faint not, but though our outward man perisheth, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. For our light afflictions, which is but for a moment. Oh my goodness. For our light afflictions, which is for a moment, works for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory, while we look not at the things which are seen, but we look at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen is eternal. Hallelujah. So the 10 spies, the 12 spies, they were standing at a place. They were standing in front of the promised land. It was a place. But they were looking at the seen, which is temporal. Caleb and Joshua was looking at the unseen, knowing that God's promise is not that we are going to be blessed, is that those that are from us are going to be blessed, and those that are going to be from them is going to be blessed, and those that from them is going to be blessed. And guess what? 2,000 generations later, they're not going to be in the same place. So the blessing is not located in a place. It is what you see. Come on. I hope I bring that over correctly. Joshua and Caleb knew that the promised land is not, you don't have to be there to step into the blessings. I mean, later on, if you go through Ezekiel 38, 39, 40, right up to the end, you find that God speaks to the tribes again and again. God had a people that were called by His name. They were a people. But they rejected God after God over and over gives them the promise again and again and again and again. Then He says, no more. I'm going to make you my people. He sends His only Son so that we can be adopted into sonship. My goodness. So it doesn't matter who your dad is, who your mom is, doesn't matter what your family tree looks like, because God is now your father. Jesus is now your brother. So you have a new inheritance. Oh, man. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Let's go to Matthew 16. I want to start closing. Oh, hallelujah. If you are in Matthew 16, just hold on there for a minute and go to Galatians 5. Ooh. Is it a good word? Galatians 5. Stand therefore in the liberty which Christ has made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. For we through the Spirit wait for the hope of the righteousness of faith. For in Jesus Christ neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but the faith which worketh by love. Now verse 7, you did run well. Who hindered you that you should not obey the truth? The persuasion comes not from him that calls you. And a little leaven leaveneth the whole lumpeth. You did run well. Who hindered you that you do not obey the truth? It's definitely not the one that called you. I'm bringing this back to the 12 spies. Make sure that there's not someone running next to you that will influence your report. Do not allow someone in your camp, in your tribe, that will influence your report. It's very important. Because 10 of those tribes died, not good deaths, with plague and pestilence. They did not receive the inheritance. Now, we are social people. And I can promise you, those 10 tribes spoke to each other before they came up with their evil report. Did you see? We won't be able to do that. Yes, I saw. Did you see how big those giants are? Yes, I did. Did you see how small we are? Yes. And they start working together and establish the report, and they give the report. Joshua and Caleb, I believe they were also having a chat with one another. You ran well. Who hindered you that you should not obey the truth? What is truth? Come on, we spoke about it last week. He says, truth came by Jesus Christ. Now, if we go back to 2 Corinthians 4, it says, God shone this light into us so that we can see, understand the knowledge of Jesus Christ. Whew. Make sure there's not someone running next to you that hinders you. You see, the promise is greater than our abilities, yes. So the glory is going to go to God, yes. But you also have to make sure that you keep your camp clean. Thank you, Father. Matthew 16. So the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they came tempting, desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven. And he answered and said unto him, when it is evening, you say, it will be fair weather when the sky is red. And in the morning, it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. O you hypocrites! You can discern the face of time, but you cannot discern the signs of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and there shall no sign be given unto them but the sign of the prophet Jonas. And he left them and departed. And when the disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. And Jesus said unto them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. And they reasoning amongst themselves, saying, It is because we have taken no bread. Which when Jesus perceived, he said unto them, O you of little faith, why are you reasoning amongst yourselves? Because you have brought no bread? Do you not understand, neither remember the 5 loaves and the 5,000, how many baskets you took up? Neither the 7 loaves of the 4,000, and how many baskets you took up? How is it that you do not understand that I spoke not to you concerning bread, but you should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees? Then understood they how that he bade them not to be aware of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. The Pharisees and the Sadducees looking for a sign. The human and the natural man is looking for a sign. Something favorable so that I can say, yes, let us go ahead with this investment. Yes, let us start this business. Yes, let us plant in this field because I have found the sign that I'm looking for. Brothers and sisters, I'm persuaded of something better concerning you. Ecclesiastes says, He that waits for the favorable opportunities and signs will never sow. You ran well. All that I'm thinking of is when I'm reading that is I'm seeing my naamgenoot in die Bybel, Petrus, walking on water and halfway starts sinking. So you stepped out in faith. Why do you try and finish it in the flesh? We step out in faith and we will finish in faith. We will not miss what God gives to us. We will not miss the promises that He has given to us. You will still see the words over this house being fulfilled. You will still see the words over this school being fulfilled because it's God's promises. God is not a man that He should lie. And we're going to witness the promises over each other's lives being fulfilled. We're going to see each other being blessed. In blessing, we're going to be blessed. In multiplying, we're going to be multiplied. Whose report shall you believe? And when Jesus came to the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, Who do men say that I am? He says, as the Son of Man am. And they said, Some say that you are John the Baptist, some Elijah, other Jeremiah, one of the prophets. And he said unto them, But who do you say that I am? Simon Peter answered and said unto him, You are Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed it unto you, but my Father, which is in heaven. And I also say unto you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And I will give unto you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatsoever you shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Wow, what a great key to receive. The next moment, Jesus says, From that time forth, Jesus began to show unto his disciples how that he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and be killed and be rose on the third day. Peter, that just received the keys of the kingdom, thinking, hey, God has just given me the keys now. I can now do whatever I want to probably because He has given it to me. The excellency of the power will come from God and not of us. So Peter took him one side, rebuked him and saying, Be it far from you, Lord. This shall not be unto you. I bind this, what's happening. I mean, he's got the keys right now. It's like, come on, how would you be reasoning in that moment? Jesus Himself just gives you authority to bind and close anything you want to. Jesus rebuked him and He says, Get behind me, Satan, for you are an offense to me. For you savoreth not the things that be of God, but the things that be of men. Hallelujah. The promises of God is of God and for God, and to bring you to God. This is why it says, the light that is shone into our hearts reveals to us the image of Jesus, so that we can become one with Him. Thank you, Lord. Let us not mind the things of men. Let us not get weary in running. Let our reports not be influenced by ideas of men. Don't listen to the advice of someone who is not running next to you. The leaven is there to conform you to their viewpoints. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So in conclusion of today, I think we ended off last week with James 3 verse 2, talking about a perfect man. Who wants to be a perfect man? For sure, I want to be a perfect man. It says a perfect man is able to control his tongue. Hallelujah. Has anybody practiced controlling their tongues this week? Has anybody had the opportunity to practice controlling their tongues this week? So whose report shall you believe? And what company do you keep? Remember, a little leaven corrupts it all. So in 1 Corinthians 15:33, 1 Corinthians 15:33, it's one that you should remember. Evil communications corrupts good morals. Evil communication corrupts good morals. I don't believe that you will be able to perfect your own tongue. God did not make us alone. He made us members of one another. From what tribe are you? You are now from God's tribe. Make sure that you don't bring other tribes into your circle. Hallelujah. How are we going to get our tongues perfect? By lifting one another up, by edifying one another, speaking the word to one another, reminding one another of the promises. Did you see those grapes? Did you see that milk and honey flowing? Let's go take it. You have what it takes to make it. Man, you are beautiful. You are created in the image of God. See, the more you start using the word, the more it becomes your nature. And then we step into the nature of God. Whose report shall you believe? You shall believe the report of the Lord. Isaiah 53 in closing. There's a couple of other things I wanted to share as well, but this is it. Who has believed our report? And to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant and as a root of dry ground, and has no form or comeliness. And when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. and he was bruised for our iniquities, and the chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Thank you, Father. God has prepared a place for you. God has prepared a place for you. A land that is overflowing. What is the report that is coming out of your mouth? Come on. If you want to see God doing something in your children's life, what report is coming out of your mouth? God works with what you give him. Lord, thank you. Yes, that is the word for this morning. Trust it blessed you.